There are moments in life when silence speaks louder than words. A pause, a glance, or an empty room can carry the weight of 1,000 voices. We often run from this silence because it feels heavy, almost unbearable. Yet in that silence, the truth hides, waiting for the imagine walking into a room where everything is still. The clock ticks, but it feels like time itself has stopped watching you. The walls seem to breathe, not with air but with memories you once tried to bury. In that quiet space, you can almost hear the echoes of your own heartbeat, reminding you of the choices you have made. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It is the presence of everything you are afraid to confront. It is the reflection of every step you have taken and every word you never said. People say they want peace, but peace is not always gentle. Sometimes peace arrives as silence, and silence demands answers. It asks you to sit with yourself, with no distractions, no voices telling you what to do, no noise to drown the questions you avoid. The truth about silence is that it is never empty. It is crowded with thoughts you lock away during the day. Thoughts that visit you in the dark hours when no one is watching. Thoughts that whisper of regrets, missed chances, and the person you are becoming. You see, silence holds a mirror to your soul. It shows you the unpolished truth, not the version of yourself you display to others. That mirror is unforgiving. It does not bend or twist to flatter you. It shows the pain you have hidden, the dreams you have abandoned, and the parts of you that long to be alive again. In this way, silence is both your enemy and your teacher. It pushes you into discomfort, so that you might finally learn who you are without the noise of the world. When you stop running from silence, you begin to notice its power. You hear the faint rhythm of your own breath, reminding you that you are still here, still alive. You feel the weight of your heart beating, steady and strong, carrying you forward even when your mind hesitates. In those moments, you realize silence is not a void but a stage. On that stage, your fears perform, your memories replay, and your dreams beg for a second chance. But here is the question. How long can you stand in that room of silence before you run again? Will you let it break you, or will you allow it to build you? Because the truth is, silence does not disappear when you close the door. It follows you, a shadow waiting to be faced. And until you do, it will always return, louder than before. There comes a time when silence is no longer just a soundless space, but a storm building within. At first it feels like still water on a calm lake, but beneath the surface, unseen currents begin to stir. You sit in that quiet and suddenly realize the silence is speaking back to you, shaping your thoughts, pushing your feelings into corners you tried to ignore. It becomes a weight pressing on your chest, not because it wishes to harm you, but because it wants you to pay attention. In silence, every memory you left behind seems to return. You hear the voice of the friend you lost, the laughter that once filled your days, the promises you broke to yourself. Each soundless reminder is sharper than words could ever be. The world outside may see you smile, may believe you are strong, but inside the silence knows your truth. It knows where the cracks are hidden, and it will press against them until you feel them widening. But here lies the strange gift. Silence is not here to punish you. It is here to strip away illusions. The noise of the world makes it easy to hide. It gives you endless distractions so you never stop to ask the real questions. Who are you without the roles you play? Without the titles you chase? Without the opinions of others shaping every step? In silence, you are forced to face yourself, raw and unfiltered. And though it feels unbearable, this confrontation is the first step toward freedom. Think about the last time you sat alone with no phone, no music, no voices around you. At first, the quiet feels unnatural, almost frightening. Your mind races, searching for something to grab onto. But after a while, that racing slows. You begin to notice details you usually miss. The sound of your own breath, the beat of your heart, the way your thoughts come and go like waves. And then something deeper begins to rise. A truth you did not know you carried. A longing you have buried. A strength you forgot was yours. This is why silence is powerful. It does not give you answers in words. It gives you space to feel what words cannot express. It opens the door for emotions that have waited in the dark. Emotions you denied because the world told you to move faster, speak louder, live louder. Yet, in that hush, in that pause, you realize living is not always about noise. Sometimes it is about listening. Listening to yourself. Listening to the voice that has been drowned out for years. And so the silence transforms. What once felt heavy now feels like truth. What once felt unbearable now feels necessary. It is not the end, but the beginning. A doorway, waiting for you to decide whether you will walk through it or turn away once again. The choice, as always, is yours. There is a moment when silence changes shape. It no longer feels like an empty room or a mirror showing your reflection. Instead, it becomes a battlefield. Inside you, two voices rise. One whispers of the life you still dream of, the risks you want to take, the love you wish you had given more fully. The other voice reminds you of every failure, every missed chance, every scar you try to hide. And in that battlefield, silence stands as the referee, refusing to interfere, waiting to see which voice you will listen to. It is here that silence becomes dangerous, because it gives your fears the space to speak louder. Regrets crawl out of the shadows. They replay like broken film reels, moments you wish you could rewrite but never can. You feel yourself shrinking under the weight of everything you left undone. Yet in the same breath, silence allows your courage to step forward too. Courage that whispers not of what is lost, but of what is still possible. It is as if silence forces you to sit at a table with both your demons and your hopes, daring you to choose who you will feed. This is the turning point most people avoid. They fill their lives with endless noise so they never reach this place. They keep the music on, keep the conversations flowing, keep the screens glowing because they know that if they sit long enough in silence, the truth will corner them. And truth is not always kind. Truth tells you where you have betrayed yourself. Truth tells you when you have been running in circles, pretending it is progress. Truth tells you when you have been silent in the moments you should have spoken, and loud in the moments you should have listened. But what if this battlefield is not meant to break you, but to prepare you? What if silence brings both voices forward not to punish you, but to show you that the choice has always been in your hands? The voice of fear will always exist, reminding you of the past, of limits, of pain. But the voice of courage is also alive, steady, patient, waiting for you to acknowledge it. Without silence, you would never hear it. Without silence, you would never know it was there. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff. Behind you is the life you have lived until now, full of mistakes, full of lessons, full of patterns you cannot seem to escape. In front of you is a drop into the unknown, frightening and uncertain. Silence is the wind at your back, urging you to decide. Will you turn around and keep walking in circles? Or will you leap, not knowing where you will land, but trusting that you were meant to fly? Silence holds this moment for you. It does not rush you. It does not distract you. It simply waits, as if time itself has stepped aside, giving you a chance to finally listen, to finally choose, to finally move. There comes a point when silence no longer waits for your permission. It crashes into you like a wave that cannot be stopped. It pulls you under and forces you to confront the things you swore you would never face. You try to breathe, but every inhale feels heavy with memories you buried, with feelings you pretended did not exist. Silence is no longer gentle. It is fierce, relentless, almost merciless. And yet, in its storm, lies the truth you need most. You remember the nights when you laughed while your heart was breaking. You remember the mornings you put on a mask just to make it through the day. You remember the promises you whispered to yourself and then forgot as life pulled you into endless noise. In silence, these memories rise like ghosts, not to haunt you, but to remind you of the weight you carry. They demand to be acknowledged, because only when they are faced can you finally be free. This is the breaking point where many people run. They turn the music back on, they reach for the phone, they find anything to drown out the storm. But running only delays the inevitable. Silence is patient. It will wait for years if it has to. And when it returns, it will be louder, sharper, harder to ignore. Because the truth never disappears. It waits in the quiet, growing stronger with time. But here is the paradox. The pain that silence forces you to feel is the same pain that has the power to heal you. The storm inside is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to cleanse you. Like fire that burns but also purifies, silence burns away the illusions you built, the excuses you repeated, the lies you told yourself to survive. It strips you bare until all that remains is what is real. And though it hurts, it is the kind of hurt that brings release. Brave to listen. In this moment, you realize silence is not your enemy. It is the teacher you avoided, the friend you misunderstood, the mirror you were afraid to look into. It reveals your wounds, but it also reveals your strength. It reminds you that you are more than your regrets, more than your mistakes, more than the weight you thought would crush you. Silence does not come to punish. It comes to transform. And when the storm finally begins to calm, when the crashing waves turn back into still water, something shifts inside you. The fear that once ruled you starts to lose its grip. The shame that once defined you begins to fade. And in its place, a new clarity emerges. You see yourself not as broken, but as becoming. Not as lost, but as learning. Silence has dragged you into the depths, only to show you that you can rise again. That is the revelation. That is the gift hidden in the storm. Silence breaks you only so that you can rebuild. It takes away what is false so that you can finally live in what is true. And once you have felt this, once you have faced yourself in the rawest of ways, you are never the same again. After the storm, silence feels different. It no longer roars like thunder or presses against your chest like a weight you cannot lift. Instead, it rests around you like dawn after a sleepless night. The air is lighter. The stillness no longer feels like a prison. It feels like space, wide and open, waiting for you to breathe into it. For the first time, silence is not something you fear. It is something you lean into, because it no longer hides your pain. It shows you your strength. You begin to notice how silence holds you gently, the way the sea holds the shore. It does not push you away. It does not demand anything from you. It simply offers a pause, a place to gather yourself, a place to understand what you carry. In this pause, you discover that you are not as fragile as you believed. You survived the storm. You sat with the ghosts. You faced the voices, and you are still here. That alone is proof that silence did not destroy you. It rebuilt you. What once felt unbearable now feels necessary. The quiet has shown you things the noise never could. It has taught you that healing does not always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the still moments between breaths. It has taught you that strength is not always loud. Sometimes strength is simply staying still when every part of you wants to run. Sometimes it is letting the silence hold the pieces of you until you are ready to put them back together. And slowly, clarity begins to rise. You realize that not every thought needs an answer. Not every wound needs to be hidden. Not every regret needs to chain you to the past. Silence has revealed that you are more than the sum of your mistakes. It has shown you that the pain you carry is not proof of weakness, but evidence of living. Every scar is a story. Every silence you have endured is a chapter that shaped you. Now the quiet no longer feels like an enemy. It feels like a companion. It is the place you can return to when the world grows too loud. It is the reminder that even in chaos, there is a center within you that is still, steady, unshaken. You do not have to run from it anymore. You can rest in it, draw strength from it, and let it remind you of who you are when the noise fades. And so silence becomes a kind of peace. Not the peace of everything being perfect, but the peace of knowing you can face imperfection and still stand. It is the peace of accepting yourself, not as flawless, but as real. Silence has stripped you down, but in doing so, it has given you back something greater. It has given you yourself. When silence changes from burden to companion, it begins to guide you. It no longer feels like an empty pause in your story, but like a teacher with lessons carved into its stillness. You start to notice how every moment of quiet carries a message. The rhythm of your breath tells you that you are alive, steady, capable of beginning again. The beat of your heart reminds you that time is moving forward, urging you to move with it, instead of clinging to what has already passed. The silence now feels like a compass. It does not shout directions, it whispers them. It does not push you onto a path. It clears the noise so you can see the path that was always there. In the stillness, you begin to recognize what matters and what does not. The voices of the world that once told you who to be, what to want, how to live, begin to fade. In their place rises your own voice, the one you silenced for years. It is soft at first, fragile from neglect, but with each moment of quiet it grows stronger. It begins to tell you what you truly desire, what you must leave behind, and what you are capable of becoming. This is the turning point. The silence that once felt like a trap is now freedom. Freedom from the endless chase for approval. Freedom from the masks you wore to please others. Freedom from the noise that drowned out your truth. In silence, you learn that you do not need to perform to be worthy. You do not need to shout to be heard. You do not need to run to prove you are moving forward. Sometimes the greatest progress comes when you are still enough to listen. The world outside remains loud. Cars rush, voices clash, screens glow with constant demands. But now, when you step into that noise, you carry silence with you. It is not just in the room when you are alone. It is inside you, steady and unshaken. It becomes your anchor. You find that decisions come with more clarity, that fear loses its grip when you pause to breathe, that courage rises when you allow the quiet to remind you of your strength. Silence becomes the map you never knew you needed. It does not erase the storms that may come again, but it equips you to face them differently. Where once you would run, now you will stand. Where once you would drown in regrets, now you will see lessons. Where once you feared being alone with yourself, now you understand that being alone is not emptiness, but a chance to truly connect with who you are. And so silence shifts from being something you avoid to something you seek. Not because life is free of noise, but because you have learned that within silence lies the voice that guides you home. Not to a place, but to yourself.